villager musician who sells music discs, scrambled eggs, cheese, corn, realistic difficulty slider, illusioners in raids, ice caves. Sounds crazy, right? All of this is just a small part of what Mojang and the developers wanted to add to Minecraft. Today we'll look at all of this and try to figure it out which of the 15 years long list actually became part of Minecraft. Our journey begins in 2009, the year the first version of Minecraft was released. At the time, Notch was making games just for fun and had no serious plans. If you remember, the game was originally supposed to feature brown spiders, but on the forum where Notch posted the first version of Minecraft, he was persuaded to make them dark-colored instead. At the same time, Marcus expressed a desire for spiders to be able to create cobweb blocks while moving or when they spot a player. This was partially implemented in Minecraft Dungeons, and if you really stretch the interpretation, killing a spider with a weaving effect will leave a cobweb block behind. Notch was also wanted to add different game modes. One of these was Fortress mod. Initially, you were supposed to build a fortress, whether in survival or creative mode, and then somehow magically connect to another similar map. In other words, your two worlds would merge into one, and you could play a game of capture the flag. It all sounds very intriguing, but it raises so many nuances and questions that no one ever revisited the idea, especially since Notch was developing the game on his own back then, and could easily have forgotten all about this. 2010 was a very successful year. That was when people started taking notice of Minecraft, and of course, there were more promises. Door opening and closing animations. This has long been implemented in various mods and resource packs, but the likely reason why Notch didn't add this lies in the answer to why 3D characters never got their own animations. A realistic difficulty slider. As an example, he set the game Fallout New Vegas and its hardcore difficulty setting. In short, on this difficulty level, the player must eat, drink and sleep repeatedly. Healing takes place gradually, inventory items have weight, and so on. This is an interesting and cool idea. Cloud collisions. Clouds would have collision detection, and when colliding with each other, would create new clouds. Additionally, clouds could cast shadows. Server portals. Now that sounds really exciting. You could create a special portal, open its graphical interface, as far as I understand, and write the desired server IP address there. Upon entering the portal, it would teleport you from survival mode to desired server. This is certainly the stuff of fantasy, but private territories on servers. Yes, all of this has already been implemented in the form of various plugins. Notch had a slightly different idea. In his private territory, monsters wouldn't spawn, weather conditions wouldn't apply, and most importantly, only certain players will be able to build there. A smoke block. It will be generated from fire, you will be able to walk through it, it will cast shadows, rise upwards, and disappear after a short time. This feature has partially been implemented in the game. In update 1.14, campfires were introduced. If you place these blocks above a hay bale, a lot of smoke appears. In any case, this isn't a block and smoke doesn't cast a shadow. Gravity for every block. So far, only loose blocks in Minecraft have gravity, gravel and sand. Marcus initially wanted to add gravity to all blocks except obsidian, but later said he didn't like the idea. Built-in anti-cheat, allowing servers to check whether a player is flying, passing through blocks, or increasing their speed. Of course, more sophisticated anti-cheat systems were created using server plugins. Make moss grow on stones. This sounds vague, but many assume it means that moss from mossy cobblestone would spread to regular cobblestone, much like mycelium on grass. In 1.17, something similar was partially added, but there are glowing leeches spread to other blocks using bone meal. Herobrine. I don't think there is any need to explain anything specific here. When the creepypasta first appeared and became very popular, Marcus naturally didn't hide his interest in adding it to the game, to boost its popularity even further. He later abandoned this idea. Scrambled eggs and cheese. He mentioned this during a stream. More precisely, he just liked the idea. It's funny, but rumors have been circulating since last year that cheese is supposed to appear in the game. Whales. I don't think it's worth dwelling on this for too long. Friendly and hostile goblins living in villages. Yes, at that point Notch hadn't came up with villagers yet and was planning to add goblins specifically, so we can consider that this was partially implemented. Furniture. Marcus didn't specify what kind exactly, but one might assume he meant all existing furniture. But as we know, Mojang completely rejected rejected the idea of adding furniture because, and I quote, "it inhibits natural creativity." Waterfalls. I don't quite understand what this was about, there was no specifics, but I think something like this could be implemented using redstone, nighttime lightning levels that depend on the moon phase. It's just like in real life, and as far as I'm concerned, it will be really cool. After all, a lot in game already depends on the moon phase. Teleports. It's hard to say about this one, since we already have portals and end gateways to distant islands, so you could say that this has already partially made its way into the game. 2011 wasn't as eventful as 2010, but there are still a few things worth mentioning. The ability to paint on signs. That's a really cool idea. I hope it makes its way into the game someday. But for now, making change to signs take a long time. Recently, we gained the ability to write on the back, or edit what's already written. Stone chunks. You'll be able to get them by smelting gravel in furnace. What will be they used for? To make stone bricks. As for stone just laying around in the world, no problem. But smelling gravel to make stone bricks? That's weird. 2012 was a very successful year. A documentary titled Minecraft: The Story of Mojang was released that year, and a full-fledged team was formed. The game gained support for foreign languages, and overall things were going very well. Giant spiders. One day, Jeb got bored and started asking people to surprise him with new ideas for updates. Those were the days. Someone asked for giant spiders, and Jeb implemented them. He even showed a screenshot. You can consider this feature implemented in the game, but only through entity attributes. Vertical redstone. No special explanation is needed here. When asked why such redstone wasn't added to the game, Jeb replied that it would complicate the redstone game code. It could be implemented, but they've put it off for later. Music that will play during battles with mobs. C418 himself announced the development of this music, but he was waiting for a new sound engine to be created in the game, so that this could be implemented. The same was supposed to happen in villages. Special music was supposed to play when you were inside one. The ability to pause the game on the server, but only for admins. During the pause, players will be able to chat with other players. Minecarts used as boats. Dinnerbone once said that this would appear in the game someday, but I don't think it's very convenient. Maps that support full customization. Dinnerbone wanted maps to support more colors and to be customizable using texture packs. Partial support for most colors already exists in maps, but the second part is not yet available. Colored pots should break when hit by an arrow. This has been partially implemented, but only for decorated pots. Seriously, why didn't they add this for flower pots? 2013 was a year full of updates. There were 3 of them: the Redstone update, the Horse update, and the update that changed the world. Minecon took place, and the beta version of a certain obscure server called Hypixel was launched. I wonder what the future holds for this server. I don't know how accurate this was, but Dinnerbone shared this screenshot, which clearly shows a minecart with a dispenser. What it is supposed to do? Why is it there? It's unclear. A new attribute system for enchantments. Initially, the idea was to add a slowness effect to the Bane of Arthropods enchantment, so that spiders would be slowed when hit, but this effect wouldn't be transferable to other mobs. A new combat system, so that every weapon in Minecraft has its own behavior model. This was partially implemented in the Combat Update 1.9, but it only introduces a single generic behavior model for all weapon types. Portable light. The same Dinnerbone want to add the ability to at least hold a torch that lights your path. Roughly speaking, dynamic lightning. Charcoal block. I also don't understand what's so difficult about that in this block, considering that the game already has a regular coal block. Smelting red sand into red glass. This is a great idea and quite logical. What do you think? Share your opinion in the comments. 2014 was a year of instability. Notch sold his game studio for 2.5 billion and stepped down from his position. Alex was introduced as a new Minecraft character, the Bountiful update was released, and the word Minecraft became the second most popular search term on YouTube. The first was music. Cloud hates slider. Reinhardt had actually added this feature earlier and boasted about it on his Twitter. Not all developers liked the idea, so it was scrapped. Improved camera controls. There was no specific information about what this meant, but I assume Dinnerbone wanted to add more customization so you could move the camera and position it as you wanted. Improvements to Endermites and the Dragon Egg. Again, it's hard to say exactly what Dinnerbone wanted to improve, since he didn't reveal the details of his plan. We can also add the new key-binding system and a new sound engine to this list. Unfortunately, there were no specific details. New type of rabbits. This was partially implemented only in the old game Minecraft Earth. There were at least 6 new types of rabbits there. Make the killer rabbit kill various mobs. Yes, there is such a type of rabbit in Minecraft, but it hasn't spawned on its own in a long time. It can only be summoned manually and attacks only players. Temples in the Badlands biomes. I also don't quite understand why something like this wasn't implemented a long time ago. I think it's a great idea and red sand blocks could be used for this. The ability to smoothly shift the center of the world boundary. If I understand correctly, the center of the world moves and with it the world's boundary. It seems to me that this could already be implemented using comments. 2015 was a very difficult year. Microsoft began applying its new management practices and no major Minecraft updates were released that year. Instead, the first part of Story Mode was released along with the Windows Edition beta, a precursor to the Bedrock version. Jeb was asked to add nachos to the game, but he replied that instead of nachos, he'd rather add corn. Rumors have been circulating for a long time that this crop might appear in the Minecraft, and it would certainly fit perfectly into the game's world. The ability to defend yourself with the shield from the side you're holding it on. This has partially appeared in recent versions, but unfortunately not fully. Minecraft for Google Cardboard. A long time ago, Google's virtual reality headsets were very popular. You could make them out of cardboard and place a smartphone inside. Ultimately, a version specifically for Google Cardboard never came out, but versions for other devices did. Wizards. New mobs were supposed to appear in the game, some of which included Evokers and Illusioners. They are, after all, wizards. Smoother auto-jumping and auto-climbing on blocks. This was intended to be exclusive to Oculus VR headsets. The carrot on stick was supposed to change its texture depending on durability. Apparently, the idea was for carrot itself to disappear as the player used it over time, but this can be implemented using a resource pack. 2016 was much more productive than the previous year. At least 3 updates were released: Combat, Frostburn, and Exploration. The Education Edition was released, the game sold over 100 million copies, and a contract was signed to create a separate version for China. Fully fledged villages in the Swamp biome. This was even shown in a screenshot. Partially, the game does feature villagers with texture matching the Swamp biome, but unfortunately there is no actual village. Removal of minecarts with furnaces. It's unclear why or for what purpose this was supposed to be done, but for now minecarts with furnaces are still present in the game. Musician Villager. This is a new profession for villagers. He was supposed to sell note blocks, music discs and jukeboxes. It's a cool idea, especially since new ways to obtain records have been appearing in the game lately. Banner pattern of Ender Dragon Head. Jeb wrote about this and then asked what pattern it should have if it existed. There hasn't been any news since then. If a redstone signal is applied to the piston but it cannot push the block, it will emit small particles of smoke and play a clicking sound. If the bow used to create the dispenser is enchanted, the arrows fired from it will behave accordingly. For example, if it was enchanted with flame, fire arrows will fly out. This is a really cool idea. Something like this is definitely worth implementing for sure. It was a year of transformation in 2017. The first ever Minecon Live was held. At the time it was still known as Minecon Earth. The Minecraft Marketplace made its debut, a version for Nintendo Switch and the Better Together update was released, allowing crossplay between devices running Minecraft. There were very few promises or mentions of specific features. The ability to change the skybox color using resource packs, a new set of prismarine blocks in Ancient Guardian color, but this was just a player suggestion that Helen Angel took note of, saying she would pass it along. She was a community manager and always responded this way to a new idea suggested by players. It's a bit of stretch, but C418 suggested adding a special device to the game that would play the music disc number 13 somewhere deep in the caves, creating a gloomy atmosphere. 2018 was definitely the year of the Aquatic update and the finalization of the old console versions. This update was the last one for them. We must also mention the texture update, which became available to everyone right at the end of the year. The Nether Pearls. What does that mean? What do they do? There is no information yet, but one of the developers mentioned it on the Minecraft Discord channel. A portal that will teleport players to other location in the overworld. In other words, these are likely the very teleports Notch mentioned at the very beginning of development. By the way, the developers mentioned this at Minecon Earth right at the end of the show. A special block where players can create fireworks. That's certainly nice, but we still don't have functionality for the fletching table. I think it's about time they added it. You can fit a minecart with a chest or a hopper onto a boat. This idea was suggested on the feedback page. They accepted it, but later on boats with chests showed up. 2019 marked Minecraft's 10th anniversary. Minecraft Earth, an AR game for mobile devices, was announced, and the Village and Pillage 1.14 update was released, along with the minor Buzzy Bees 1.15 update, a separate animation for crawling. Right now, the game sort of has this animation, but in reality, instead of crawling, the player used the swimming animation. Illusories in raids. Yep, just this year the developers hinted at this possibility at Minecon, and players eagerly jumped on the idea. It's the perfect map for raids, especially on high difficulty levels. Space. Again, it's very difficult to say with accuracy. The developer said space in response to the question of what biome he would add. You could get there through a portal similar to the Nether portal, but it would be foolish to take that as a promise. 2020. I think we'll all remember that year, but let's not dwell on the sad stuff. At the very least, we got update 1.16, the Nether update. We also shouldn't forget the release of Minecraft Dungeons and the start of the account migration, the Nether bots. They were supposed to be made of a new type of wood or even netherite, but as you know, instead new mobs, Striders, appear in the game. Although in the joke snapshot 15W14A, obsidian bots were added, which sank initially in lava due to their weight. Soul Fire Blazes. Jeb was asked about this on the Ask Mojang show, where he replied that he liked the idea. It's funny that before that, he said they didn't want to add different variations of existing mobs. I think the bugged and various types of farm animals wouldn't exactly agree with that statement. 2021 was a year of disappointment. Developers scrapped some of ideas for the Caves and Cliffs update and then split it into two parts. Development and support for Minecraft Earth was discontinued, but there was some good news too. For example, Minecraft videos on YouTube racked up over 1 trillion views. Glowworms. These are insects that emit light in caves. That's exactly what they were talking about, and they would be great fit for the game, especially for the cave update or the deep dark biome. Rivers that follow somewhere in mountains and gently descend downward. Henrik Nyberg, the developer who created the new generation of mountains and caves, agreed that this is a good idea. Biomes with rivers where there is no rain, like a desert. There is no rain there, but there are no rivers either. Mobs will not despawn if they pick up an item left by a player, a dispenser or a dropper, because right now a zombie can pick up a chicken egg and it won't disappear until the player kills it, of course. Layer of moss that can be placed on other blocks so they become covered in moss and gain a unique texture. Something similar to this has already partially appeared on Pale Moss. Stairs and slabs made of terracotta and concrete, basically classic. Ice caves. Caves like this would fit perfectly into Minecraft. There is nothing more to add. 2022 Wild Update. Account migration became mandatory, without it you couldn't play Minecraft, and of course the announcement of Minecraft Legends. Back to developing the second part of the Combat Update. A couple of years ago, Jeb was working on combat snapshots, interacting with players and gathering their feedback, but development later came to a halt. Blocks that will protect against the wither but can still be moved. The game has already reinforced Deep Slate, which has high blast resistance, but unfortunately it cannot be moved. Snails. Felix mentioned them. He would like to make them cube-shaped and the size of a player's head. They would only move when players weren't looking at them. Make red mushroom in Minecraft poisonous. This would reflect their real-life prototype. The ability to stack cakes. If I'm not mistaken, this can be implemented using comments. Sloths. Agnes expressed a desire to add them to the game, but of course this is just a wish. There was no specific plan to add this animal to the game. 2023 the Trails and Tales update, end of support for Minecraft Dungeons, the final mob board, and of course the release of the unsuccessful Minecraft Legends. Layers of Sand. One of the developers, Gnambone, decided to showcase a funny bug involved in a camel, but attentive players noticed the layers of sand in the background. As it turned out, this was just a personal project by Gnambone that wasn't intended to be added to the full game. More ways to obtain Mending enchantment. In general, I wish to only obtain such a book through something difficult method. It's way too overpowered and selling it through villagers is a mistake. More unique textures for potions. This is a great idea. So far, they've just changed the texture to make them more expressive, but giving each one a unique texture is exactly what's needed. 2024 is the last year on our list. This year saw the introduction of a new development strategy for Minecraft, specifically drops, and a shift from 1 Minecraft Live event per year to 2. It also marked the game's 15th anniversary, the finalization of Minecraft Legends, and the release of a native version of Minecraft for the PS5. I think you already noticed that the closer we get to the present, the fewer mentions there are of new features. One such mention was a new model for the Dragon Egg from the developer, but later, for some reason, the tweet was deleted. King Bidux also mentioned that vaults were designed to be multifunctional and can be used in other structures, but obviously if they were used in other structures, they would have slightly different functionality and textures. In 2025, there weren't any specific mentions or promises worth mentioning, and 2026 isn't over yet. What's more, as you have already noticed, the developers have completely stopped hinting at anything new and generally don't discuss such things publicly. Is this their personal preference? I highly doubt it. Out of everything on this list, what did you like the most? What would you for sure want to see in the game? Share your thoughts in the comments. While you're waiting for the next video, check out these ones. They're just as interesting. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button and hit the notification bell. See you soon, because we're discovering Minecraft in a whole new way.